ever, like, been so sure about something you saw, but then later maybe you didn't remember it quite right?
Yeah, memory can be tricky. And in police work, getting things right, I mean, it's everything, right? Huge difference.
Totally. And that's where this thing, the peace model, comes in. It's how they do investigative interviews in New Zealand. Fascinating stuff.
Totally different from what we're used to seeing, that's for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. So we're diving deep into actual New Zealand police training on this.
Straight from the source.
Exactly. We're going to unpack how this peace model works, why more and more countries are using it, and honestly, what it tells us about getting reliable info, when a crime happens.
Because the old way, like the really intense interrogations, might not be the best way to find out the truth.
So peace, it's an acronym, right? What do those letters stand for?
Each one's a stage in how they do the interview. Planning and preparation, engage and explain, account, probing and challenge, closure, and then evaluation.
Whoa, okay. A lot going on there. But before we get into all that, I heard there's this whole other layer, like a cultural thing that really shapes how they approach this whole peace model.
Totally. The training materials we've got, they talk about these Thai law enforcement officials who went to the New Zealand Police College, and they were blown away by how much emphasis they put on respect right from the start.
Really? Like, what do you mean?
So, picture this. These Thai officials show up, and they get this traditional Maori welcome, the hongi.
Oh, yeah, where they touch foreheads and noses, right?
That's it. It's about shared breath, this connection, showing deep respect. And it's not just like a polite custom. It actually gets at the heart of how the peace model works.
Interesting. So how does that actually play out, in a real interview?
Well, think about it. When you start with that respect, that understanding, it changes things. People are more likely to relax, be more open, and that can lead to better information. They don't feel like just a suspect, even if, well, they are one.
So it's not about, like, forcing a confession. It's more about having a real conversation.
Exactly. And that's where the PEACE acronym comes in. Each of those stages, they build on that respect. They're all about getting the clearest picture of what happened.
Okay, I'm ready to get into those stages. Let's start with the P. Planning and preparation. What's involved there? Planning and preparation. I mean, that makes sense, right? But with this peace model thing, I'm guessing it's more than just like writing down some questions.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's like setting the stage, before you even talk to the person.
So, like, if you're a cop, you got to know the case inside and out. Witness statements, evidence, all that.
For sure. But it's bigger than just the facts, right? They really want the officers to look at themselves, too.
Themselves? What do you mean?
Well, everybody, even like the most experienced detective, they're going to have their own biases, right? Things they already think. This whole planning and preparation thing, it's about making sure those biases don't mess things up.
So, like, you check yourself before you even walk in the room.
Exactly. You got to make sure you're seeing things clearly, not just through your own lens,
That's wild. Okay, so you've done your homework on the case, on yourself. Then what? That's when you get to the E, engage and explain.
Right. And this is where all that prep really matters, like we were saying with the Maori welcome and everything. That respect carries over.
So none of that, like, interrogation room stuff. The bright lights. Good cop, bad cop.
Totally different vibe. They want the person to feel okay, relaxed even, about talking. Not pressured or scared, even if they might be a suspect.
Okay, yeah, but how do you actually do that, create that kind of atmosphere?
It's all about how you talk to them, how you act. Like, instead of just jumping into questions, maybe you start by asking, how are you today? Just being human with them.
So even though it's serious, it's about treating them like a person.
Exactly. And the questions matter, too. The peace model is big on open-ended questions. The ones that can't just be answered with a yes or no. They call them TEDS questions.
TEDS? What's that?
It stands for tell me, explain, describe, show me. That way, the person has to give more detail, explain things their own way.
Instead of, like, leading them, you let them lead.
You got it. Give them the space to tell their story. Way different from those fast yes or no questions you see in the movies. Those can lead to mistakes. People saying what they think you want to hear.
It's about seeing it from their side, even if it doesn't match up with everything else, right?
Exactly. And that's where the A in peace comes in. Account.
Account. So that's where they actually tell their story, right? But we already talked about, like, open-ended questions and all that. What's different here?
Well, it's not just a one-time thing, It's about constantly gathering info as they talk.
So it's like the officer's listening, piecing things together, and seeing if anything seems off.
Right. And if something doesn't quite add up, that's where probing and challenge comes in, the next stage. But, and this is important, it's not about trying to trip them up.
Right. Yeah, with the peace model, it seems more like They're trying to figure out why something doesn't fit, not just get someone to confess.
Exactly. Because memory, it's not like a video, you know? You can't just rewind and see exactly what happened. Stress, time, what you already think, all that can change your memory. Even the way someone asks you about something can affect how you remember it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's like, I don't know if you ever played that game, Telephone, as a kid. The message changes every time someone new says it.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
So with probing and challenge, if the story and the evidence don't match, the officer comes at it kind of gently. They might say something like, okay, you're saying this is what happened, but we also have this evidence. Can you help me understand what's going on?
So no accusations, just trying to get a clearer picture.
Exactly. And that can lead to all sorts of new details. Maybe they just forgot something or saw things differently at the time because of, well, whatever was happening.
Makes sense. Our sources mentioned this training thing they do with a video that really shows how memory works.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. So they show a group of trainees this video. Then they ask them to describe what they saw. Seems easy enough, right?
Yeah, everyone's watching the same thing.
But here's the thing. Everyone remembered it a little differently, even though it was the same video. And these were cops, people who were supposed to be good at remembering details.
No way.
Yeah.
It just shows you, even when you think you're paying attention, your memory can still mess with you.
And that's exactly what the peace model gets at. Even eyewitnesses, which everyone thinks is like the best evidence, even they can get it wrong. Our brains just don't work like that.
So then how do they handle that, with witnesses?
Yeah.
They believe what they're saying, but it might not be the whole story.
Well, the training is really big on the interviewer staying neutral. Like, super neutral.
Neutral how?
So even small things the interviewer does, how they're standing, their tone of voice, how they word a question, it can all affect what the witness says without even realizing it. The peace model is really careful about that.
That's wild. So you could think you're being fair, but just how you sound could be leading the witness.
Absolutely. In fact, the training even said that senior New Zealand police, when they interview someone, they try not to know too much about the case beforehand.
Really? Why?
Because anything they already know, even just a hunch, could change how they talk to the witness. Then they're looking for what they already believe, not the truth,
Wow, that's really something. Just a different tone or whatever, and the whole story could change.
Yeah, it's kind of scary how much our memories can be manipulated. That's why the peace model is so focused on being self-aware, knowing yourself so you don't mess things up,
This has been amazing. Seriously, I thought I knew how these things worked. The peace model, it's like a whole different way of thinking about police work, about truth, about memory itself. Makes you realize we all have our own biases, and we got to be careful about that. So next time you hear about a crime or see something on the news, think about what we talked about. Remember that our memories aren't perfect, and getting to the truth takes way more than just asking questions. Thanks for listening.